Hello and welcome to another Let's Talk Church of God of Prophecy. I am Ghandi Thompson and you are in for a treat. So if you are free, I invite you to share this link, call a friend, call a church member, call your loved one. We are going to be talking about love. And today is the day when many people are prepping for their celebrations. Tomorrow they are getting their flowers order in. They're making their last stop to the grocery stores or to the chocolate factory. They're getting their bottles of apple cider. I know Pastor Scott has already gotten all of his stuff arranged. But this is the season of love for many. But for us, Christians, it is always the season of love. Love is never out of style. And so today we want to have a little chat. We want to let's talk. And we will be talking today about love for God, love of self, love of family, and of course, love of others. Today, I am so blessed to have a wonderful group of Christian men and women who are going to just be sharing their views on just self-love, loving God, loving our families, and of course, loving others. So you still have a few minutes to share this link, to invite a friend, to call hubby next to you, call the children in the room, because this is going to be a friendly conversation for all members of the family. I want to begin this show by inviting our guests and I'm giving them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And I want to firstly say good evening to you, my guests, and good evening to all of you online. Our first presenter today, or our first guest who we'd like to introduce herself, is Krishanda Adams. Krishanda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Krishanda Adams. As Ghandi has said, I am a holistic nutrition coach, health and wellness coach. I help women change their nutrition habits and lifestyle habits to accommodate their nutrition habits, and just to become a healthier and better version of themselves. And so that's what I do by profession. But I'm also a child of the King. As Candy has mentioned, I live my life on the premise of Jesus Christ. That's who I am. And yeah, I reside in Canada, but I born bred in the Bahamas.
Thank you for that, Coach Adams. Krishanda, we're gonna get back to you with some hot questions. But Coach Trishawn, you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me, Dr. Gandhi. My name is Trishawn Hannah. I am a wife. I am a mother of 3 beautiful children. I am a life and marriage coach. I also have my business, Your Lane Life Coaching. I am a talk show host for Your Lane Talk Show that is on Star 106 FM. I'm also a sales representative at the NASA Guardian Group media company. And I am honored to be here, just like Rashonda. I am a child of the King as well. And I love helping, I love serving. My platform is mostly women, or my niche, I should say, women. And my desire, my heart, my everything is in restoring or helping to restore the sanctity of marriage. So thank you once again for inviting me on your platform.
Thank you, and you are welcome. We are happy to have you. I want to move right on, and I know these other 2 guests, they're probably no strangers to many of you, but Deacon Grant and Minister Janet Grant, please formally introduce yourself to our listening audience.
Well, I am Deacon Chris Grant Jr. I'm presently the Vice Principal of the Government High School, and I'm also level 5 track and field coach for the Bahamas Associated Athletic Association, and just recently been appointed relay coordinator for the Bahamas in athletics. And of course, I'm a member of the world famous Bahama Brass Band, section percussion head, and the panel upstairs there is one of my symbolists, and so he's also a member of the world famous Bahama Brass Band. And of course, I'm the co-national family ministry director of the Church of God of Prophecy, Commonwealth of the Bahamas, along with my lovely wife. Minister John. And I'm a born again believer, born and bred in Church of God of Prophecy from birth. So I am happy to be a part of this family.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Janet Grant. I am a teacher at Sierra Walker Senior High School, subject coordinator for Family and Consumer Science Department, also coordinator for the Girls Club at my school, also the director for Women's Ministry at the East Street Church of God of Prophecy, with my husband, co-director of the National Family Life Ministry of the Church of God of Prophecy. Also, I'm a mother, a wife, and a Grammy as well, a grandmother of two beautiful grandchildren, a boy and a girl. And the boy is just about 4 months old. And so I'm just happy and blessed to be here on this program. And thank you again, Sister Ghandi, for having us on your show this afternoon.
The pleasure is mine. And Coach Adams, you would notice how close these two are sitting together. We are taking notes. Aren't we taking notes? We are taking notes. I mean, the wind can Sister Grant look as if she connected to his armpits. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. But Pastor Scott and Minister Crystal Adams, please formally introduce yourselves.
Right, all right. Name is Scott Wilson, pastor of the Church of God of Prophecy City of Worship, located on Marshall Road, servant leader down there. And it's a privilege to be here tonight. I am a child of the King. I love the Lord. And work at the Ministry of Tourism, manager there in the Travel and Planning Unit. And husband of one wife for 18 consecutive years. Father of 3 awesome gifts from God. And, I like Brother Fritz say, I am a member of the Bahama Brass Band, one of the awesome men's ministry in the Church of God. And that's pretty much me. That's who I am. And I thank God for this lovely woman on the side of me who's going to introduce herself, who I love with all my liver.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Wilson. I am the minister of the Church of God of Prophecy. I also, alongside my husband, we are leading at City of Worship, Marshall Road. I am a teacher by profession, presently the team leader of the grade 6 level. I am a child of God. I love the Lord with all my heart. I am a mother of 3 lovely kids, like Pastor Scott said, and that's basically me.
Well, thank you. And I'm sure that those who are listening in can see that we have a well-experienced group of lovers, relationship coaches, wellness coaches. And so we're certainly in for a treat today. As Pastor Scott was introducing his wife, you could still see the love in their eyes, so many years of marriage. And love is still hard. Look, Pastor Scott is still glazing into that, into those eyes. Krishanda, I see you drinking your water. Please keep that near. We want to get back into it because, a lot of people look at this season and just think about loving their spouses and romantic love. But we're here because all of us share a mutual love interest. And that is the love of God. John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And all things will fade away, but we know only our relationship in Christ is what will make the difference when it comes to eternity. So Trishawn, I want to ask you, Coach Trishawn, to please begin this discussion. And we want to focus with God. Trishawn, as you think about God's love, right? My question to you is, what is your perspective on God's love? How important it is for us today?
Candy, thank you so much. I just wanted to delete this. My phone was ringing while you were speaking. But Gandhi, Dr. Gandhi, listen, the love of God, for me, I can't even explain it. Just as you said, he sent his son, Christ, to die for our sins. So the fact that he first loved me is more than enough. It's sufficient. But loving God requires abiding by his precepts, his concepts, being obedient to his word. Because his word tells us, if you love me, you will keep my commandments, right? So the love of God for me is abiding by what he wants us, his desires for us. It also requires being obedient to his specific instructions for our lives. Loving God entitles not taking away and not adding from what he wants to give, what he's telling us. His unmerited grace alone and his favor extended to me makes me want to fall in love with him over and over and over again. It requires being in a position of readiness, being able to abide according to what he wants from us, his precepts, his concepts, and his once again his principles for how we should live on this earth.
So, Trishon, you're saying it's not merely enough for me to say I love God. With that love should come obedience, right? It should be actionable. People should be able to see that I love God. Is that what you're saying?
Not only that, I like how you said that, because loving God also requires loving people. All right, loving others as you love yourself. It's impossible to say that you love God and you do not love your neighbor. So yes, it's his precepts, it's following his instructions, it's not taking away or adding from the instructions. It's loving others as you love yourself.
So this is getting into how this is all interconnected. And Pastor Scott, you and Minister Crystal together, you work hand in hand, overseeing an entire congregation, which is where we get to exhibit this love for others that Trishon is saying. What do you want to say in response to what Trishon has said in terms of loving God, and adding to that in terms of your role in loving others as leaders?
Well, I'll say my 2 cents and then I'll pass it on to Pastor Scott. Well, I believe that loving God, like you said, requires us to love others. It is a part of his commandment. And we have learned, or we have built City of Worship on love. That is our watchword. We believe that when persons come to City of Worship, they should feel love. They should feel like they're part of a family, a community of persons that are there to love and to care for them, and to, be genuine about it. And that is exactly what we have built City of Worship on. So from time to time, we take a step back and we look and we see, okay, are we still building everything on love? What else can we do for the people that we serve to know that we love them? What other ways can we make them know that we love them and we care about their well-being, and more importantly their spiritual life, or the spiritual aspect? But it's the whole man that we try to attend to, the whole man, which I mean, we about spiritual and living for God and serving God. But how can you love a person and they are hungry and you're eating every night, but they are hungry and you don't offer them a plate of food? It's all about compassion. It's all about, meeting the needs as much as we could. And so that is what we've based City of Worship on: loving the people that we serve. And you cannot serve others except you first love them. You can't genuinely serve anybody if you don't love them first. My two cents.
I'm just gonna tip just a little piece of it, because the time is running. But Gandhi, another mantra that we look at too is we must also remember who the other people are, whose they are. And then, for me, what I always base my focus on, I think about, there's a phrase in the Bible that says, compass about the so great cloud of witnesses. And sometimes we must remember, I don't mind, I tell somebody, the relationship God had with Moses, I don't even come close. I can't even touch it with a 1,000-foot pole. I know him and Moses was tighter than me and him. But to see how Moses spoke to God's people, and the result of that was that he only could see the promised land, not even enter, because of how he treated God. So let me tell you something. It's something with God's people. I don't care. Let God call them wicked. Let God call them no good. That's God. But when you get into trying to not love or trying to do some things to God's people, you find yourself in a serious predicament. And so for me, that's one of the things that we look at as well. Who's the people who God of these people are that we serve? Because we must be very careful. I don't mind how they carry on. I don't mind what they do. Remember, they have a God. And these are God's people. And so that's some of the things too that keep us on track and loving people, in spite of who they may be, in spite of how they may carry on, in spite of how they may terrorize us. We must always remember, I mean, we talk about John 3:16. Man, listen, God commended his love towards us that even while we were nobody, alienated, no name, that born just to die to go to hell. But for those type of people like me, who was born in sin, he died for me. He showed his love. He distributed his love. He entrusted his love to me, unworthy as I am. And I know that's a lot. But anyway, just want to say that's why we ought to love others as well as we love ourselves and as we love God.
Yes, I was coming to you. Yes.
I wanted to just add to what both of Coach Trish and Pastor Scott and Minister Crystal had said about, also not just loving people, but I think loving God also means taking on the character of who he is. I think a lot of people say, oh, I love God. I gave my life to Christ. I serve God. But a lot of people, and the Bible talks about it, that they say it with their lips, but their hearts are so far away. So it's like, you can say these things, but have you really sought who he is? Have you sought out his character so that you're able to represent yourself in a way that loves others, so that you're able to take on the fruit of the Spirit? You know what I mean? And so I think taking on the character of who he is a great expression of you loving God, loving Yahweh.
Krishanda, before I move on, I want to ask you, because Trishan laid a very solid foundation. She talked about loving God. She talked about loving ourselves. And in that same text that she referenced, when we talk about loving others, loving our neighbor as ourselves. You're a single woman. You're into wellness. You're in Canada. It gets cold. It gets cold, and you're away from your home, and may get a little lonely. Talk about the interconnection between taking on the personality of Christ as a single woman, being away from home, because your family members aren't there to so and so keep an eye on you. So you're there adulting away from home. How do you love yourself, embracing the love of Christ as a single lady?
You want the truth?
Yeah, the whole truth.
The whole truth.
It's real ghetto.
Oh,
it's ghetto. It's raggedy. It's raggedy. That's what it is. But I believe that before I left home, people who know me, they know that I've grown up in not just a church environment, but I grew up in people who had real relationship with Yahweh. I grew up in that kind of environment. And so I also had a foundation when I came here. So I try just 1 second. I do try my best to hold fast to the foundation that I have already built. My relationship with Yahweh is at the premise of who I am and what I do. Now, as it relates to self-love, I think it's essential to just about everything. I think who you are, what Yahweh has for you, who you will become, who you're meant to be, is on the other side of you loving yourself first. Because if you don't love yourself, you won't show up in the world as who you're supposed to show up in the world as. And so I think, I think everything rides on the premise of you loving yourself first. Even you taking care of yourself. My wellness journey, I think it started with me getting a revelation of who I am and accepting that about myself. And once I begin to love myself in that way, I begin to put things in place that help me to thrive holistically in mind, body, and spirit. Because I want me to thrive. When I talk about wellness, I always make this analogy about a car. You get a new car, you want the right fuel in it, you want you cleaning that, making sure it's clean. And so it's the same thing with us. If you love yourself, if you build your life on self-love, then not only will you be able to love people well, you'll be able to put things in place so that you are also able to take care of yourself, put things in place so that you're able to thrive in mind, body, spirit, everything. You'll be able to put things in place so that you're able to thrive. And so that's how I've been trying. That's how I've been making it. The road has been rough. The road has been rocky, but I mean, that's I feel like that's life. That's life. There is no straight road. There is no straight road. There's turns, there's hills, there's valleys, there's a lot. But my love for Yahweh and my love for myself has helped me to manage. I feel like it helps me to manage well, put things in place so that I am able to thrive. Whether I even went to therapy while I was here because I love myself enough to give me what I need to succeed and to thrive. And so, yes, it gets lonely. Yes, it's hard, but you find avenues to help you to thrive in the seasons that you're in.
Listen, as you were talking, and we're talking about family love, I can see the genuine love and concern powering through this communication from Crystal's screen to your screen when you use words like love, lonely, and ghetto. Because as a sibling, I'm sure she wishes to see you more, to journey with you more. But life has it that adulting is a part of what we do to mature even into and appreciate even more the love you spoke about, which brings me to our National Family Ministry directors. When you think about love, and this is the time when everybody's just is focusing on eros love, that romantic love. We've got teenagers right now plotting to go to the movies, behind their parents' back this weekend to catch up with their little crush. We got so many, people sweethearting. We have, broken homes where parents, children are hurting in this season because their parents are no longer together. What is your vision, when as National Family Ministry directors, as it relates to the people of God, regarding love and for families?
Okay, Dr. Ghandi, I just want to put in my little plug here before my husband comes on. When we look at the Christian families, you look at the background, and you can tell those families who are going through difficult situations. And one thing we love to do is to encourage families to love one another. Because you know that this is the greatest commandment. And Jesus said it in his word that this is my commandment, that he love one another. So we have to demonstrate it, we have to show that. And as we go around and we share the word with people, we encourage them to love. How can you love God if you do not love your brother, your sister? And you know what bothers me most too, when we see Christians lifting up holy hands, speaking in tongues, and they have everything else to go with it, but they don't love one another. They pass them by. They don't say anything. That bothers me. And I believe that if Christians do more express love, they demonstrate that. That's not a word that you play with. And so we want to see more of that as we move around. We want to see more demonstration. And I believe when we demonstrate that powerful word, when we express more of that powerful word, I believe that it brings more joy into the homes. It also, to me, I believe that it invites God's even spirit in our homes. Because there are so many children that are going through difficult situations, they're going through abuse. I mean, and the list goes on. They do not have that love in the home. They're looking for that love. And so sometimes they're looking in the wrong places. They're going to look for that boyfriend. They're going to look for the girlfriend for that love. And so if they're not seeing that in the home, they're looking someplace else just for that attention. If they're not seeing that Christian love demonstrated in the home, they're going to find that love someplace else. And so I believe that we need to encourage more of that when we come in contact with families, Christian families. Let us encourage families to love one another, because that is the greatest commandment. Jesus said in his word that we must love, because how can you go to heaven if you do not love your family, if you do not love your brother, your sister? We must love one another. In spite of, it might be hard, or it may be hard to love somebody who really and truly hurt you. But we have to do it. We have to love them. In spite of it all, we have to show love.
You know, one of the issues I think when it comes to love is forgiving those persons who have hurt us. Forgiveness is very important if you're going to love somebody. It's very difficult for you to love anybody, even your brothers and sisters, if you don't forgive them, if they have hurt you either emotionally or whatever the circumstances come. So forgiveness, being able to confess, being able to go back and say, pardon me if I have hurt you. The words that I've chose to affect to cause you to act in a certain way, because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction that occur for us, even as believers. So one of the things that you see less love probably among families is because of lack of going to forgive me. Honey, I forgive you for not doing what I'm supposed to do, or the word I say to you, pardon me. A lot of Christian folks don't do that. And as a result of that, that will stymie that love. That love would not grow, it would not shine, it would not push forward. And you will see that. You will see that in the action, how sometimes they won't hold on. Sometimes you can see them sitting in pews, but the husband, the wife and husband, the big old gap in between, or sometimes a child in between husband and wife. That should not happen. That should never happen. If my son, my daughter, I no, this for my honey here. She can sit close to me. So that has to be demonstrated.
That's her armpit.
That have to be demonstrated. So if our family members don't see that, and yet we lifting up holy hand and we speaking in tongues, but yet we are living contrary to that, that's an abomination. That's being hypocritical. And so it's not effective. I don't think God will be pleased with that. How can your family grow? So many of us walking, we can't communicate, we can't, something wrong with that. That means we have to fix some things that need to be fixed, and it starts with our heart. Our heart has to be changed. Our heart has to be transformed. Our mindset has to be different. Mm-hmm. You see, and as long as families do not communicate as well, families do not share, we got to go, hey, say, hey, honey, I love you, but you got to demonstrate that. You got to change up the diet. You can't do the same thing over and over again. So you have to make it. You have to be dynamic in your relationship with your spouse or with your family. You have to read them. You have to learn them. You have to understand them. Know her thoughts. Know what she like. Know what she don't like. Sometimes people don't read one another, and they missing fire. As a result of that, the relationship doesn't grow. The marriage doesn't bloom. It doesn't blossom. I love this woman on the side of me just to get mad up. But some 30 plus years ago, this is my sweet on the side of me. I'll say anyway. How many people can do that? Yeah, how many people can do that? See, this thing we call love with families, you have to demonstrate that daily, not just in February. That should be a habit of love. Then you celebrate. See, we don't celebrate each other in love. The little smaller things, these little notes and these little stuff. Some of us forget that. All of that affects relationship. All of that builds relationship. It strengthens the bond for the marriage. So the younger folks who contemplate the marriage, they say, you know what? I want to be like Brother Scott or Sister Scott. I'll be like Brother Fritz, Deacon Fritz, Minister Grant. Hey, I can look good. She can look good. She represents me. You see? And so that is how God designed marriage family to be. We represent the Most High. We represent excellence, an excellent God. So that has to be a part of our characteristics as believers. But we have to practice that. It's more than a talk. It's doing. It's actually getting out there and making it happen. And when you do that, people say, boy, me not dressing like most all the time. Because this my wife, I complimenting her. What? This is what God bless me with. So I will make her shine like a star. Right? I say, you guys do all these things. People too shy. Christians too shy. They don't know how to love. They too bashful. But I'm sorry, I'm out of the box. I sorry, but Ghandi, this is what's about. You talk about loving family. You have to show that. Say, why I want to be like that? That's something positive because God is love. And once we do that, then we follow the commandment.
Deacon Fritz, listen, I know Coach Trishawn wants to chime in, and Krishanda, I just want you to know that when you are ready to get married, I'm going to buy your husband his first wellness shirt to match you. Okay, so y'all will be following the advice of Deacon Grant. Listen, so I ain't gonna let you get leave up. Okay, when you ready, whenever you're ready, you tell me. Get the shirt ready for you. Okay,
I am going to hold you to that.
Not a problem.
I just wanted to add to what my good Deacon was saying. He said something that really stood out, and it's the truth. He said it's a heart issue, and whether it's a platonic relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, true love cannot exist where pride is also there. And I think that's what happens in a lot of relationships. We want to fight for our need to be right. We want to fight for our need to be above the other person's. And so I think once we deal with the pride issue and we die to our own self and extend a little bit more compassion to other people and be a little less selfish and be more selfless, we'll be more open to loving each other or loving, not just loving your partner, but loving your neighbor. We have to be less selfish. It's not all about you. It's not all about my needs and my own. The love, that there's an exchange that happens. And so you have to pride. I think the heart issue here is pride.
Listen, I know Pastor Scott already told me, Sister Ghandi, I'm only going to give you a couple minutes because me and my wife have plans. But before you run, Pastor Scott, I was listening to you guys. I was taking notes because Deacon Fritz, you and Pastor Scott are in the band, which means that, Sister Grant, I should get a text from you tomorrow telling me about your saxophone rendition. Now, Crystal, yours is a little tricky because I know Pastor Scott play the cymbals. So I don't know how this will work out for you. But I know Pastor Scott have other plans. But moving right along, Brother Deacon Fritz said something that really stood out to me. And Krishanda, you guys are on it today. And Trish, I'm letting you jump right in right now, right? But we live in a time where many people love the work of God more than their family and other people. Pastor Scott, you have young children, yet you are doing this work. You got a young, pretty wife. How do you make sure that Ariana and Ariel and all of them know that you love them, but yet you love Crystal, and also let the members in the church know that you love them, but also love God? help us out. Help the men and the women listening. How do we manage loving all of these, people and ourselves in the midst of all of this? Because you have to take, Crystal wants you to have full gray hair. How tell me how do you do it?
Sister Gandhi, you know me by now. You know me for a long time. I just stepped into the church for 2 days ago. I was one of those, just like that. I would put church before anything because my priority was always God first, then the church of God, and then everything else come behind. But when you get a little older and you understand some things, you get a little older, you get more mature, you come to put some things in perspective. And I'll say this, and I don't want to say it in a bad way, but sometimes when you get hurt by the church, and sometimes when you go through some things that the church may, do to you, sometimes you come to understand some things as well. And I've come to grow up to realize that the priority now is God first, family second. I have church third, then I have my secular work fourth. Everything else comes under those priorities. And all four of them are priorities to me. They're all important and they're all priorities. But God is first, and then my family. And so what I've come to realize and come to understand too, Sister Gandhi, is, I had a friend on the job who would come to work, 6 o'clock in the morning, leaving 12 o'clock at night. And I said to him, boy, that don't make no sense. Boy, what you do with your family? And this is me talking, I said, what you doing with your family? He felt as though the ministry would not operate if he wasn't there. And when me and him had a conversation, God had it so that about 2 weeks later, his appendix erupted. A Sunday morning, his wife went out to the food store. She met him on the floor. We got a call from church and we all went up there. And he was out for at least 3 months. At least 3 months. When he came back to work, the first thing I asked him, did the ministry skip a beat? Did the work stop? He said no. And after that day, he comes to work at 9 o'clock and he leaves at 4. And he goes home with his wife and he goes home with his children. And some of that, even though talking to him, it makes me to realize as well that sometimes, Sister Gandhi, we do put not just work, but we do put church as well before our family. And I've come to realize that even when it's all said and done, when I've retired
Family.
and I get old,
Yes, sir.
I can tell you when I get sick, I could bet you all the money. We don't bet, we don't gamble. Sorry, I shouldn't say that word. But I could bet you all the money in the world. My family will be there more than the church will be there. Not saying they don't love me, Gandhi. Not saying they don't care about me. But what I'm saying, Gandhi, is that family, and I've seen so much, and we know about it. We've seen so many of our family members as pastors, our kids, lost. They're in the world because we would have put church before our family. And so I've come to learn that. I've come to mature in that. I've come to understand that. And just so you could know, Sister Gandhi, I took my wife yesterday evening for her Valentine's dinner. Now, the reason may be a different, Monday through Wednesday, to me, it's going to be very hectic trying to get in restaurants. And I believe they're going to up the price anyway. So I just went yesterday, and it was a beautiful time with her. I didn't take the children. But if you know me, Gandhi, whenever I travel, I don't travel without my children. I don't travel with my family no more. I put family first now. I put family before church, and I put family before the ministry. I would not put family before God. And so when you look at these kind of things, Sister Gandhi, yes, you do love the church because also the church is an extended family as well. And you have persons there that are also in need of you or need of your advice. They need shepherding, guidance, and all this other kind of stuff. And so you know where that lies. Okay, and so also on your job, you ain't there just to make money. God placed you there because your light got to shine. But in it all, when it comes to family, I've come to understand, Sister Gandhi, that family is so important. that listen. There are times I thought I couldn't even miss a service, but now, come on, we take our time with our families. We take our time and we have fun. We have fun with them. And, I have one little daughter there who just born about 5 years ago. My God, she is the joy of my life, and it's just prioritizing everything that comes to you, and you got to put that in perspective. And last thing I remember, one thing we had there, one of our lecturers came over. We had a thing one of those CBL courses, I think it was, and he said you got to learn to say no to the ministry without the guilt, because he was teaching away, and his wife was having their child, and he didn't know what to do. It. He said something in the middle of the class. He left, but when he got home, it was too late. The baby had already come, so he missed the child. Plus, he gets scolded for leaving the class in the middle of the class. So he looked at us and he said, "As ministers, you all got to learn to say no to the ministry without the regret and without the guilt, because God did not design you to be so busy that you would neglect your family." And so I've come to love my family. I've come to love them. I've come to love my church family as well, and I'll be there for them. But I can tell you, Sister Gabby, if something happened to Pastor Scott, I can bet you any money Sister will be there more times than anybody else. And so for me, that's the maturity I came with. All is priority. God first, family, church, then work. All is priority, but they come in that order.
Sister Gandhi, if I can put in my 2 cents, because Pastor Scott is going to be here, but I have to make my exit. I'm going to hang out with the gals tonight, with my sisters tonight. If I can say, when we began ministry, I was about at the age of 26, pastoring. At the time, I think we were missing. And we opened our doors to anybody. We had an open door policy. I can say for the most part, Ariana being our first child, she got the brunt of it. Why? Because nobody really taught us that family comes first. Because growing up in the church, like Pastor Scott said, everything was just church, church, church. The door opened 6 o'clock, I was in church. The door opened 10 o'clock, I was in church. The door opened up 8 o'clock, I was in church. And so I believe loving God was all about serving in the church and neglecting priority when it came to my family. I just want to say, Gandhi, that a little bit late in the stage, we learned boundaries. We learned that our family needed boundaries. And again, our members had boundaries that we had to adhere to. And so we learn about boundaries, and we realize that, hey, at some point in time, only thing is happening here is we're opening up our hearts, and I've learned to guard my heart with all diligence. Where out of it flows the issues of life. We've learned this because we've been leading and we've gotten hurt because we poured all that we could into the ministry, but yet sometimes you don't get any thanks for it. Sometimes you don't get the love back that you're given. Because I've grown up in a church where I've grown up with love. The old people, they used to take you and chastise you. And then I was skinny at the time, and then they lift me up after church and spin me around. I knew that was love. Nowadays, you chastise or you say something, it's taken in the wrong way, and they go on with their business, So we've learned boundaries, Sister Gandhi, late in the game. Nobody taught us it, but we've learned it through experience. Through experience, when we realized Ariane is at the age of 14, but she still come and throw herself on us. And I'm saying, I think in the older you get, the less you want to be hugged and kissed and all that. But they desire our love too, even in their teenage years. And so I've learned to embrace her back. I've learned to give her the love that she needs. And I used to have CNR time, Ariana and Crystal time. You spend time with your family because it's very important, because we don't desire to lose our children. And so if I can say one thing, as leaders, we need to learn boundaries. We need to learn boundaries. And that's my 2 cents. Candy, thank you so much for having me. And I have to make my exit.
You
You
mute, Gandhi.
muted, Candy.
My dear friend, Minister Crystal, you are excused to leave. Coach Deshawn, we will reach out to her afterwards to find out why we didn't get an invite, and Sister Janet to the private girls' night out. But that's another topic for another day. We'll get with her on that. But I guess she's establishing the boundaries she spoke about. But as you leave, Minister Crystal, you made some good points about boundaries. Brother Chad Adams is in the chat saying boundaries are necessary. Lucretia Johnson is saying boundaries are necessary. You know, Teresa Thompson is saying this is a timely topic. Tammy Bow is saying it's all about intimacy. And I think for the Grants, they were talking that when you were all up with Sister Grant looking up in her eyes, they were talking about the intimacy during that part. But I want to talk about, and Coach Deshawn, so Minister Crystal, I know you have to leave. God bless you. And have enough fun for the rest of us who didn't get invited. But Coach Deshawn, I want you and Krishanda to tag team on this, because as Pastor Scott and Minister Wilson was speaking, and Trishawn, I want you to talk about, because you're a life and marriage coach, you know, and that's important, because if our life isn't in order, if our personal identity and life isn't in order, it affects what we bring into the marriage. And also, if our marriage is chaotic, it impacts the life that we bring, or the witness that we have as Christians. I want you to talk about some of what Pastor Scott and Minister Crystal shared. And Krishandra, I want you to elaborate on that word boundaries, if you can, from a single perspective. You know, give me some meat with that. Let me get a little bit of drink. Let me get something to drink. Go ahead.
Well, as Pastor Scott and Minister Crystal were speaking, I don't know if you noticed, but I was just nodding my head straight through. They were right on point. Listen, you cannot do this thing called commitment. You cannot do this thing called marriage without God. This commitment is a calling that has to be committed to God. Like, God has to be the center, the epitome of what we're doing. First of all, we have to be in alignment with Him and His Word. And His Word speaks about hierarchy. And this is something that I tell people all the time. Hey, you have to know the hierarchy. You have to know your position. You have to know your priorities. 1 Corinthians 11 speaks about, 1 Corinthians 11:3 says, the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. That's the hierarchy. That's the hierarchy I'm explaining. Your children falls beneath, for a husband, under your wife. So for a husband, it's God, it's your wife, it's your children. Now, I am a little, I guess it's something that we can discuss further, Pastor Scott, but I believe that the job is next, and then the ministry, and then community. And I'm okay for you to tell me otherwise. I am open to that. But chaos will always take place when someone is out of alignment with God or without the hierarchical position. Like, there will always be chaos. If you decide that your job comes first, all right, and you neglect your family, there will always be chaos there. There would always be turmoil. Someone would always be out of order. Something would always be out of order. And then God cannot bless your home like that. And the promises that He has for you wouldn't even abide properly, because you're disobeying His word. You're disobeying order. What I would tell people to do in situations like that, when they are mixed with, they are unable to set priorities or know who goes where or when, is to understand that you have to find out what is most valuable to you. What is most valuable to me? What matters most? Okay, because jobs can come and go. All right, churches sometimes, as Pastor Scott explained, he spoke about church hurt. All right, churches, some people, y'all know people funny. They iffy. They 1 minute they for you, and the next minute they talking against, they against you. These people will come and go, but your family, your root, your core, when everyone else turned their back against you and you come home, that's what matters most. So you have to understand that. And then, sometimes, and I can speak from experience, I am the wife of Dr. Chaswell Hanna, Chief Superintendent of Police. If y'all know him, because y'all in prophecy, so y'all know, this wonderful giant of a man is extremely busy. Okay? And for me, being his wife, and I understand that. First of all, you have to understand the role of your mate as well. That is vital. Because if you don't know what your purpose and your calling is, especially me as a helpmeet, you'll be gone long time. Exit out. Exit, what they call it, stage left. So sometimes we understand as wives that seasons change. Seasons, 1 minute, you can understand that, hey, this is the time, or this is the era, this is the position that your husband has at this moment. Try to get it together while he's out there trying to do what he's doing. And as a husband, hey, my wife has just had a baby. My wife is just doing all these different things, just mothering. Okay, my wife is a stay-at-home mom and there's so much going on with her. I have to understand that there are moments when she has to do some things and it may seem as if she's not concerned about me or she doesn't care or whatever have you, but let me give her some space. Let me give her some time. But at the end of the day, you still have to come together and understand that, hey, priorities, hierarchy, know who comes where and when. There should never be a point where someone is out of order. The husband doesn't know that his wife comes first. Well, first of all, the husband and wife doesn't know that God comes first, but we know that that's foundational. All right. The husband thinks that the wife thinks that the children would always be first. Oh, these my children. This is who I born. Okay, let me tell y'all something. Children, once again, they're gonna get old at some point, and then they're gonna leave the house, and then it's just gonna be y'all too. Then what? All right. So when you have, issues, even with scheduling, be intentional about making time together for each other. Be intentional about knowing how to set time or to focus on time. If you feel as if you're in a marriage where the other person is being consumed, either with ministry, because I speak to pastors' wives all the time. It's a struggle for them. It's a struggle for them to try to balance household and the church, because the church is so demanding. At the church, someone needs you to pray for them at the church, at the hospital. Family just passed away. They want you to be at the funeral. They want you to do this. They want you to marry their sister, uncle, cousin, brother from down the street. So there's so much aspects, Ghandi, and I don't want to continue on with this because I know there's Kushan that we tag team in. But even in that's why it's important, especially as leaders, to designate people, because you can't be everywhere all the time. And that's something that I actually learned from my husband as well. There are going to be some times when, even though sometimes that you are better off doing things for your sanity and for peace of mind, you're going to have to allow other persons to do certain things that you're unable to do, so that you could spend that time with what matters most.
That was good. That was good. I think, because you talked about boundaries, I think any healthy relationship, even with not just with others, but also with yourself, requires boundaries, requires a level of boundaries. And as it pertains to yourself, being able to live the best version of who you are means putting things in place so that people don't overstep. You have self-preservation for yourself. Mm-hmm. And so boundaries are important. It's important to know your limits. It's important to know, become self-aware of how much you can take. People who are, prone to giving excessively, those people are, those are the people that tend to overextend. or continuously give without boundaries or with not even being conscious of what they're doing. And so it's important to be self-aware about where you are. If your tank is full, you need to be able to monitor exactly where you are and put those boundaries in place. Boundaries aren't to shut people out or keep people out. It's to be able to preserve what you have so that you be able to pour again. And so, there's a saying that says you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
You can't pour from an empty cup. And so if you are continuously giving without boundaries, without any conscientious of, I'm just giving excessively, then you're going to give and give and give and give until you're just empty and you're not going to be able to manage anything beyond that. And so I think being self-aware about where you are, what you can handle, what you have in your tank, will help you to put boundaries in place for that specific thing. And like I said, developing relationship with yourself and with others require you to build healthy boundaries. It requires you to build healthy boundaries. I think boundaries are important to your well-being. I think boundaries are important to even for others, because when you don't put boundaries in place, then somebody suffers. Somebody is bound to suffer. And so healthy boundaries are important. Pastor Scott talked about, boundaries with the church, not Pastor Scott, but both of them, Pastor Scott and Pastor Crystal, talk about, boundaries for their household and for the church. Like I said, had they not, put certain boundaries in place, she talked about how her first child got the brunt of it. Imagine if they hadn't really come to the realization that, hey, we are excessively moving, we are excessively giving, and our families are being forgotten. So imagine how much they have 2 other children. They probably would have been and every child manages things differently. And so that could have been, a whole other thing that they would have had to deal with. And so it's important to be self-aware of how you're giving, be self-aware about where you're at, and put the boundaries in place, put safe boundaries in place. Again, boundaries aren't about shutting people out. That's not what it's for. It's about preserving what you have so that you're able to pour again, or you're able to give again. Because if you're not preserving that, then you won't be able to. You won't be able to. So boundaries are a very important part of your health and well-being. Very important part of it.
Oh wow, this is good. We're running out of time, but I have 2 more questions for each of you, and we got to get this done in the next 10 minutes. So let's see how we're going to do this. Trishawn, I'm going to come to you first. Give me, in a minute if you can, 1 minute to 2 minutes at most if you can, 3 tips that a strained marriage can practice to get their love back into it, to get, to get the stuff flowing again, the butterflies and all that other stuff that the people think is needed for us to be in love.
Well, that's a loaded question. Things that will be needed for people to be in love. I don't fully understand the question.
Three tips you can give a couple, a struggling couple, to rekindle that love flame. And I can give you a few minutes to think about it.
I can answer. Okay. Well, first, communication is important. So definitely communication is one. You have to be able to share what it is that you want out of the marriage, share what hurts you, share whatever experience that you're going through. That should be something that should be open enough for you when your marriage, your relationship with your spouse. All right. So communication is key. The second thing is to have fun, man. The older we get, it doesn't mean that you can't go out and be spontaneous. It doesn't mean that you can't go and let me stay focused. If anyone watches my show, yes, y'all know how Sunday show was, but find time to spice up the marriage. Have fun. Go and do spontaneous things, go on dates, travel if you can, whatever's in your budget. And then my third point is just to know each other's love language. Serve. Be able to serve one another, because the conflict usually happens when somebody's need is not being met. So serving, I think, is important. And that, of course, that ties into everything, because you want to have to communicate what your needs are. You don't expect your spouse to assume that this is what's going on with you. So communicate, have fun, serve, and serving, which means knowing the love language so that you'll be able to meet the need of your loved one.
Minister Grant, I want to come to you. Thank you, Trishawn. Listen, I wrote those down. Definitely, I'm heavy on the fun. I'm heavy on the fun part. So yes, Minister Grant, you have said that you are a grandmother 2 times over, but you don't look like it. And we have a wellness coach here, so you've been doing something right, or you and Deacon Grant been doing something right. Tell us about self-love as a married woman. You've already raised your children to the point that you have grandchildren. Can you give us 3 tips quickly on how we can love ourselves as women, married women?
But Sister Ghandi, you really and truly have to take time out for yourself. That's important. We tend to look after everything else and after everybody else, but we must take time out to exercise. Just go to the spa, get your manicure done, put your legs up and enjoy the massage. Go to the salon. And sometimes, we tend not to want to do these things, so we're trying to save money. And I always say to young ladies and young married ladies and sisters, dear, sometimes, even once a month, you put aside a few dollars to treat yourself. Forget about the husband. Forget about the children. If that once a month you can go put aside something of your pay just to go and relax yourself, do that. That's critical. That is important. Self-care is very important. So whatever you need to do, if it's like like I said, go to the spa, you exercise, you go on the beach, or you just go in your car just to meditate, just to reflect, you can do those things. And that is so important. We have to take care of ourselves. We are no good to ourselves, to our family, if we're not taking care of ourselves. So treat yourself. Put your legs up and just go and relax. Enjoy the breeze on the beach. One time I had to do something. I just leave from home. I went on the beach and I just put my window down and I enjoyed the fresh breeze and meditate. That was just my time for myself. No husband, no children. And spend time. You need your personal time alone with the Lord. That's critical. That's very important. You need a personal time with the Lord. And I said to my son the other day too as well, and I said, no. I said, yes, we have family devotion, but I need my own personal time with the Lord to meditate, to pray. That's my personal time. So once we do some of those things, and even much more you can do, but self-care is very important, because we are no good to our families if we are not taking care of ourselves. We spend all the money shopping for the children and doing this here and leave ourselves unattended. So let us do those things that will help to build up ourselves and to be more relaxed and to feel comfortable, so that you can be better serve your church, serve your family, serve your husband. Because guess what? You need energy for these husbands. A lot of energy. And so the man who want a tired wife in the bed, he don't want a tired wife, okay? He want a woman who have energy. And so you just can't just lay there. But that is my 5 cents. So ladies, let us take care of ourselves first. That's important. Let us take care of ourselves.
That is good stuff, Deacon Grant. I think I will do the men a disservice if I don't ask you to give us at least 2 quick tips that men can use in terms of caring for themselves, married men or single men.
Listen, go to the gym, exercise like my wife say.
Don't have a 6-pack,
buff up. man, put on some nice shape, flex the muscles sometimes, you be that, little masculine stuff and, smell good. Put on some nice cologne. When you put cologne on, the sense above, all that send them wild. They know what time is what coming next. So you have to really look after your personal wear. Eat healthy. Take your vitamins. And, go for a walk. Do those things that you love to do. Like going to the gym, like I said, play basketball, shoot pool, go bowling. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to help develop yourself and help develop your skills. Play dominoes, those type of things helps with the men, men talk and so forth like that. And, you have to add variety into what you want to do to get the best out of it. And just feel good about yourself.
I love it. Thank you so much. Krishanda, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. You are single, but you are a wellness coach, which means you want to see people be well in all areas of their lives. As a coach, in your training, in your sessions, I'm sure you've seen dysfunction when it comes to qualities of love in couples. You're single, you don't want to get married if we could be so dysfunctional, right? Things that we can do as married couples, to show singles this, where, that. Tell us how we can market this couples ministry so that the singles can be like, I won't be the hair underneath my deacon grand. Tell us how we can get there. Tell us.
That is an interesting question. Very interesting question. Can I pass this to someone else?
No, we want it from a singles perspective because sometimes we look in our own marriage mirrors and we think it's okay, but maybe we're giving the world a bad perspective, or maybe we're doing some things good that we could even do better. Tell us from a singles perspective, and I'll give you some time to think about that then, right?
Okay.
And I'll go to Pastor Scott as we get ready to wrap up. Pastor Scott, and this is your final words for Pastor Scott. I'll come back to everybody else. Pastor Scott, you love your wife. If anybody knows you, they know that only Pastor Scott and the Church of God of Prophecy have a wife. Pastor Scott loves his wife. He loves his family. And I know that you love your church. When you were talking, even though you had mentioned at times that, sometimes there's church hurt, sometimes there are offenses, there is still a great level of love and passion you have for God, his people, and ministry. How do you keep that fire burning in your heart?
Again, like I said, Ghandi, my mantra is I can always remember who these people are and whose they are. But also, when you look at, I think the scripture is in Luke chapter 6, and the question is asked, Sister Ghandi. It says, what thanks do you give when you love those who love you back? And then it goes on and says, even the sinners love those who love them. And so what it's trying to tell us that sometimes you got to understand, Candida, I ain't trying to be deep, but we're talking about God's love. He loved the unlovable. He came down on this rugged, to die on a rugged cross for the unlovable, because we couldn't even love our own self. And so there are times you must understand, and again, I think Shonda hit it on the nail on the head when she talked about the character of God. If we're gonna possess the character, if we're gonna say, listen, I am made in his image and in his likeness, we gotta understand that we're gonna have to possess the fruit of the Spirit. And so these are the things that we gotta hold on to, because let's be real and let's talk here. If it's of ourselves, I am with Sister Hannah. Exit, stage left. Okay? If it's gonna be of self, we ain't, Ghandi, come on. Had it not been for the grace of God, some people would not be in your cross, and they'll be in your crossfire. But because of God's grace, it anchors us to understand that it's not about us. It anchors us to remember that, wait, let me do something. This race has a cross. But what I like about it too is that even though we may have a cross, there is also surely a crown. And Gandhi, the Bible says, who for the joy that was set before him. Sometimes you just gotta look at other things, look at the joy of the Lord that will cause you to propel beyond the hurts, beyond what people do to you, beyond the unlovable. You got to put some things before you look at some other things, because if we don't allow the grace of God to sustain us and to keep us and to anchor us, we're gonna lose our way. Most of us, we're gonna lose our way. I can tell you stories. Me and one of my former pastors coming to almost blows. But had it not been for God's grace, had it not been for His Spirit who chastised me and tell me, listen, when there's disunity, I am grieved. And I had to learn that. I got caught up for that. But because you understand who God is in you, because you don't know, and I hear a lot of this understanding ourselves, but boy, we better understand who the God is that is in you. And so, with that being one of the key factors that cause us to be able to love and to continue to be focused on the goal that is set before us. We have a mission. We have a final destination. And I'll end by saying, He who has begun the good work in us is well able to complete it until the day of Christ. And whether we like it or not, that is where our joy lies. Man, it don't make no sense coming this far to lose your way now because of people. Man, Gandhi, come on, man. We could do that before we get old. But not you, us. We could do that before we get old. But my thing is, at the end of the day, you must be focused. And like the word says, man, you can always love those who love you. That's an easy thing. There's no profit in that. But the profit comes in loving those who don't love you. For the Bible said, blessed are ye when men revile you and persecute you and say all manner against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad. We have to understand there is a cross to each and every one of us. And our cross come in different shapes and form and size. But no matter what it is, it's a cross. And so sometimes we just got to be focused on the love of God in us. We'll be focused on the grace of God in us. And we must be focused on the God that is in us, that keeps us to be focused on the goal that is ahead of us. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Scott. Thank you, Krishanda.
Okay, I will interpret this answer according to what I perceive from what you asked. Okay, so as a single woman, yes, I've observed a lot of marriages, especially around me. But there are a few things that I have learned about self-love and loving yourself first before you get into a marriage. And one of the things is that you set the thermostat for how you want to be loved. When you explore loving yourself first, because you know exactly what that love looks like. And so it's important that you love yourself first. For me, I think love isn't just tangible things, taking yourself to a spa, self-care. Those are aspects of, demonstrated self-love. But also I think self-love is a frame of mind. It's a frame of mind. Because we are created mind, body, and spirit, it has to start here first. It has to start here first. And then everything begins to follow afterwards. So it's a frame of mind. Self-love isn't just, I need to make time for myself. I need no, because that's not sustainable. You'll just be doing it because this is an act of self-care. But to be able to sustain an act of that self-love, it has to start here first. And it can only start there if you get a full revelation of who you are in Christ. You begin to not just know, but accept that. And so that's another form of loving yourself. Before you get into a marriage, I think Coach Trish, she touched on it. And she said, if you are in a marriage and you don't know what you're meant to be doing, what your purpose is, all that kind of, you're going to be absolutely lost. And so a part of loving yourself is living a life that's purposeful. When you love yourself, you live a life that's purposeful according to the will of Yahweh for you, for you. And so in this segment of my life, and I believe me moving here was so instrumental because I've been developed in ways that I can't really explain. But I know that me who desire marriage, that is a huge aspect of what's required to have a healthy marriage. You have to be fortified in who you are, who you're meant to be, and that comes through loving who he's called you to be. You have to be able to love yourself first. So those are the things that actually that I've observed as a single woman who desires to be married. But we're talking about self-love, and I believe that it's so essential because there are so different aspects of love that can be expressed as self-love and loving yourself first. But when we talk about getting into a marriage, I believe that is very essential. When we talk about self-love, you have to love yourself enough to walk in the will of Yahweh for who he's called you to be. I said it when we opened up. On the other side of self-love is the purpose of who he's called you to be. You have to be able to love yourself, love all of who you are, every aspect of who you are, so that you're able to walk purposefully in who he's called you to be. That way, you'll be able to connect with someone that aligns with the call of God on your life. Because if you don't know, then you'd be hoodwinked.
I love what you're saying, and it's so supported by what Sister Grant says, because of her coming into this relationship with Christ and this awareness of loving herself. This is why in her marriage she's able to bloom and fulfill the purpose that God has for her and her husband together, which is a critical ministry. You guys really did an excellent job. Thank you all for being here. Coach Deshawn, you have 1 minute to share your final thoughts, and then we're going to ask Deacon Grant and Minister Grant to wrap us up. Krishanda, Coach Adams, wellness coach, find her on Facebook. If you don't know her, find her. She's under Krishanda Adams. How else can they reach out to you, Krishanda?
My coaching business is Vita Well. I do have a page on Facebook, but I also have a page on Instagram. So I really teach about nutrition, but I help people to change their lifestyle habits that can accommodate that lifestyle, that nutritional change, so that it's sustainable long term. So we have people that do fad diets that, hey, they some people know what they need to be eating, but they haven't made room in their life to sustain that lifestyle. And so I help people to change their lifestyle habits for where they are, because everyone is in a different place and a different season. And so we help to create routines that works for them. And once we create that lifestyle habit, that lifestyle change that can accommodate their change in their nutritional habits, then we begin to see some sustainable change in their life.
Thank you. Coach Hannah, I think you're on at 6 o'clock on Sunday evenings. How does one get in touch with you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can go to my Facebook page, Your Lane Life Coaching. There you will find a list of all of what's happening, the updates of the show. If you want coaching in your life or your marriage, or those who are planning to get married, you can reach out to me, www.yourlanelifecoaching.com. I would love to assist you in that area. And if you don't mind, Ghandi, I want to say that don't feel as if you don't need help in your marriage. Don't feel as if you could just do it on your own. All right. God created people and professions for a reason. Okay. You can't just say, I'm going to live my life and just not go to a doctor. My car is running rugged. I'm not going to go and take it to a mechanic. For every time and every purpose in our lives, God places people in that environment to help propel us further into what it is that he needs for us in that particular season. So I definitely would recommend that if your marriage is struggling, or if you simply just want to get from where you are, you want to enhance your marriage, you want to find different ways and new ways to bring, new life into it, please reach out to me. Or not even me, if it's somebody else, maybe a therapist, that's up to you. But since I'm here, www.yourlanelifecoaching.com. Thank you.
Our family ministers, directors, thank you so much. Thank you, Pastor Scott. If you're looking for Pastor Scott, he's on Marshall Road, the city of worship. And I can tell you, they take worship very seriously down there. Minister Grant and Deacon Grant, final words, thoughts, or prayers you want to leave us with as we close.
Okay, Sister Gandhi, I just want to encourage families to continue to love one another, continue to show that love towards one another, because we are living in the last days and we know that the Lord is soon to come. And so I encourage families to just to be there for one another, to encourage, to help wherever possible, to build that strong relationship with the Lord.
I want to encourage family to put God first, seek God. Establish that prayer altar, eat around the table, communicate effectively. All of that will build strong family relationship, and it will strengthen the family unit that God designed in his creation. And so I pray that God continue to bless each and every one of you as families continue to grow in the grace and in the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and that his Holy Spirit will cover each and all of our families to continue to worship, to serve God in spirit and truth and in the beauty of holiness. Blessings upon each and every one of you.
Thank you all, my well and able panelists. And as we move into the season of Lent in the next couple of days, let's talk about love. Right, Krishan? I think you know the rest of that. Let's talk about love. Let's talk about wellness. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about marriages. Let's be good to one another. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for watching Let's Talk. Good evening.
Amen. Bye.
God bless.
God bless.